Hello friends, today I'll show you quickly on how I mix my colors for the acrylic pouring. I would suggest that if you are beginning on the acrylic pouring, then you stick to just one type of brand of colors. So these are the acrylic paints by artist Loft, and these are fluid in consistency. You still need to add the pouring medium in, but these are fluid in consistency. They are not that thick as compared to the Liquitex colors or the artist Loft that comes in the tube. So I would suggest when you are beginning, just try all the colors from one brand of the same consistency, because in acrylic pouring it is very important to keep the consistency of all the colors the same. Otherwise the paint would not flow in the manner in which you would have expected it to, because some of the colors will flow and some of the colors will be stuck at one position and the composition will not come through. But after you have tried few of your paintings or the pours with just one brand, just one consistency, and you have got a hold of how to mix it with the pouring medium, then you can move ahead and start mixing with other colors with different consistencies. So when I started off with artist Loft. I got big bottles of these and I mixed them up with Floetrol and water, and my consistency was always for this 1 part paint and 2 parts Floetrol and half part water. So if you don't have the weighing scale, you can use the spoon, the tablespoon, or any measuring cup. And today I'll show you how I mix my other paints with the Floetrol and the distilled water. Let's say in my acrylic pour, I'm going to use the colors that have these 3 different consistencies: very fluid, little thick, and the most thick. So I will take my color with the most fluid consistency out of these 3 to start mixing first, and then I will mix these 2. So before mixing, and I'm going to use the Floetrol, and always sieve the Floetrol first so that all the gunk goes away. So I'm using this sieve. You can use pantyhose or filter. So here is how I'm going to sieve off my Floetrol so that any of the gunk that is inside is sieved off. Okay, so Floetrol over here, and if you don't have the kitchen scale, you can use like a tablespoon, teaspoon, or a measuring cup to measure your paints. First, I will go with my color that is most fluid or thin out of these 3. So just for showing purposes, I'm going to mix just little bits of the paint and not much. Let's say if I take this measuring cup, I'm going to take one of this. So this is approximately my 1 part of paint. So I take my cup and I'm going to pour in this 1 part of my white color. And this is how I mix it. Every artist has their own way and own proportion of how much paint and how much Floetrol and water they mix. And they have their own ratios that works best for them. But for me, most of the times, this is the ratio that works best for me. So this is 1 part paint, and I am going to mix 2 parts of Floetrol. So for my swipes and my other pouring or the fluid art techniques, I use this proportion, and it has worked well for me so far. That is 1 part paint and 2 parts Floetrol. So 2 parts Floetrol, when I say, it's going to be 1 big scoop of this 1 and 2. So this has always been my proportion for mixing. And always try your best to mix the paint and the Floetrol first, so that the binder stuff and everything, they stay as it is for the paint, and then add water to thin it out. So I'm going to mix this really good. So consistency wise, you can mix it really good. And in this, I'm going to add distilled water and half part. So this much, half part of the distilled water, and mix it all good. Every artist has their own fixed proportions. They have experimented with it and what works best for them. So for me, this proportion from the very beginning has worked good. And also, depending on the technique that you are using for the acrylic pour, your proportion you might want to tweak a bit. Let's say if I am doing a ring pour, or I'm going to do a straight pour on a canvas, and in that case you might want your like for the thick paints, you might want 1 part paint to 3 parts Floetrol, and you might not want to add that much of water in. I will show you the consistency that it has reached here. So this is the consistency. So the lumps are not falling. These are not the lumps falling. This is a single streak of paint that is falling, and it's not like lumpy. And when it goes and hits in my cup in the paint, then it's not like sinking in. It's just like dissolving itself. And this is the consistency that I would need for all my paints. So this is really mixed good, and you can check one more time of how it is dropping in. And at the end, after I have mixed these 3 paints, I will show you of how I mix the paints and tested the consistencies just right before pouring. Whenever you have to pour, and right before pouring, you need to check the consistencies of all the paints. Maybe if they are mixed overnight or a few weeks before and they have thickened a bit, you can add few drops of water. So next I'm going to mix this color, and this one is by artist Loft Silver. And for this one also, I'm going to use 1 part. As you can see, this is thicker than the other fluid paint that we used before. And if this is approximately 3/4 of a teaspoon. And I'm going to use 2 parts Floetrol in this. One part and 2 part. So this much Floetrol. Mix it really well. So if you check the consistency, here is the consistency, which is definitely very thick as compared to the other paint that we mixed. So I'm going to add water in this. I'm not going to add any more Floetrol, and I'm going to just thin this with water. At least 1 teaspoon of water is going to go in this. And this is more than even the amount of paint that we used. And this type of ratios mix, for me, they work for the swipes. And check out this video that I have for the swipe, in which I have used this proportion and how the pour turned out. So check the consistency now. I hope you'll be able to see that. So this is the consistency of my white. right? And I have to get the same consistency with my silver paint. So this is the consistency for my silver paint, and it has reached almost the same consistency, if you see. Okay, and now moving to the last color, the thickest of the three. I have like my almost 1 teaspoon. Again, you can experiment when you're doing it. You can try experimenting and try to mix your colors and check how they work for you. And also, if you have a kitchen scale, then it's much easier. You just measure in ounce or in grams, and then you don't have to eyeball it or go through this measuring with the spoon measuring or the measuring cup thing. Two of this. So this is the consistency, which is super thick right now. And I'm going to add water to thin. If you can see, after adding 1 teaspoon of water, it is still thick. So I need to add a little bit more water in this. Okay, now seems fine. Look, the consistency, it's almost reached the same as my white paint that I have mixed before. And let me show you one more time all the three consistencies. So the idea behind mixing and the ratios is, for me, is take the thinner of the paints, the fluid of the paints, mix 1 part paint, 2 part Floetrols, and half part water, and it gave me this consistency. And then for the other paints with the different consistencies, I went ahead and added the water as needed to reach the consistency for the thinnest paint. And for these paints, the consistency is now the same. And if you want to check the video, this is the video, and here I have used with the same consistencies. And I want to show you one more thing. For the ring pour or the straight pour, I'm going to use this consistency, Liquitex Rose Pink. This was the thickest paint that I have. And for the ring pour, I'm going to add it in a slightly different way. This is my 1 part paint to the 4 parts of Floetrol. And for this particular thing, after adding 1 part paint, 4 parts Floetrol, I'm going to add few drops of water to thin it just a light bit. So sometimes some artists don't use water at all. They will just mix paint and Floetrol to thin it out. And if you want to see the video for this one, here is the link where I did the pour, straight pour, using this proportion. So far, these are the only proportions that I use, and if in future I experiment and tweak it a bit, I will mention that in the videos. Now I'll show you the clip where I check the consistencies before pouring it onto the canvas. And now the time to pour, and I will just check all the colors. Here is my white color, And if you think that the color has hardened a bit overnight or being in the bottle for some time, you can definitely add just few drops of water. I need to add few drops of water in my yellow one. Couple of drops of water. Mix it really good. This is all good. Let me check my blue. My blue is perfectly fine. And my green, I mix these colors at night. Green is good too. And this one, I just put a tape over it so that it's not the thick paint doesn't stick on the sides, and the thumb pins to raise the canvas a bit. So this is prepared. Lay it to this side and let's get started. So friends, here I'll show you the little experiment, and I'll lay down the colors that we mixed so you can get a feel of how they flow. So this is the base white color that we mixed, and I'm going to lay over here. Okay, and the quinacridone magenta that we mixed right now, I will put it on top, and you can see how it's going to flow. So this is flowing, and it's not like too fluid, it's not like too much runny. And here is the silver that we mixed. This one is little fluid, and I'm going to lay on top of it. So just for an experiment's sake, I will do the swipe and see how it looks. So I just take this damp towel, lay it on top of silver, and gently swipe it. So this is how I've just done on this patch, and you can see how this is looking, and I will let it settle for a while. So this is no silicone added, and this is the torch that I use, and this is the butane torch. If you are the beginner, I will put the description below, and very easy to use. You just have to fill this up. I can show you really quick. This is the butane Burnzomatic. So when you have to fill it up, you just open it, and so make sure this is closed. So very easy. So this is the universal, I think universal ring that they say. You just lay it down like this and press it. So this is how you fill it. So when you press it, so when you start seeing that the little bit of bubble or the watery stuff has started coming out, it means the torch is full. This is the adjustment for the flame, how much you want the flame out, and this is the knob for on and off. I know when I first started it was a little scary, but now I love using it. And you turn it just on and flame it. So I'll just show you that. Make sure that there is no inflammable thing around it. So this is how we turn it on, and I almost go like parallel. I don't go straight like this. I almost go like parallel like this, and to see how the bubbles pop up. And this is no silicone. I have not added any silicone in. So this is how it is. This is the spot on precision pouring oil. I got it from Amazon, silicone oil. And in this much amount of paint, I just use a teeny bit of a drop. I'll show you right now. So this is the pink paint that I mixed, and this one is 1 part paint, 4 parts Floetrol and water mixed to reach the consistency of my white paint. I'm not going to add any silicone in this, but I'll show you of how this flows and you can get an idea. Here I'm going to lay my base color, and I'm loving the cells that have popped up. There are many, like so many tiny cells that have popped up. Not big, but just tiny. And these are just the 2 colors that we mixed, the silver and the quinacridone magenta and this white base color. So on this, I'm going to lay my paint and see how this flows. Pretty good. I'm loving it. So see, even this has started moving. When I'm moving that, even that layers are moving. So isn't that looking wonderful? Just like this, like maybe in, you know, cloud effect it is giving. So this is like a rain pouring. I know the colors are different. I was just to show you, I just did an experiment. But isn't the way it is looking like this portion, like maybe these are the raindrops falling from the sky, are the clouds, and these are the clouds. Maybe I might have used the cobalt blue, the turquoise, and other blue shades to make it like a feeling of a cloud. So you can check after moving how it has moved. So just for the experiment purposes, and you can get an idea of how the paints are mixed with different consistencies. And if you like this video, the experimentation and everything, please give me a like for this video. And if you have any negative feedback or any suggestions or any feedback, then please put it in the comments section below. And if you like the contents of the channel, then please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.